Are we live yet?
We are. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Collective, number 365. We are on the last show of the year. Very excited. Can't wait to get this started. We got Tamara rejoining us. We got Matt rejoining us. We got Jim rejoining us. This is going to be a fantastic conversation. Today, we're going to be talking goodwill. But now, while I am so excited that I'm jumping forward, let's dial it back a second. Make sure you're liking the show. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Do all that good stuff. Get your emails in the morning or afternoon whenever we go live, which is, of course, every day except for tomorrow because we're not going to be live tomorrow. So, looking forward to the shift in the new year. Can't wait to get this going. Now, if you have any thoughts, questions, comments, anything at all, by all means, put them in the comment section. We will engage those throughout the show. Kind of like this one, Lisa jumped in here, said, hope to catch this last one of 2023. Congratulations to a year of podcasts. You're all amazing. Changing lives. Salty Jinx jumps in here. Happy New Year's all. Winter Storm, Chris, Dan. Winter Storm jumps in. Good afternoon, team. Vanessa Chaos, good afternoon. Happy last day of 2023. This is going to be a good one. I'm liking this. So, before we get too deep into the convo, let's get some intros off the bat. And let's start with Jim. 10 to 15 seconds. Who are you? Where you come from? Give her.
Thank you very much. Jim from British Columbia up in Canada. I'm happy to be here, part of the collective team, and thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Always good to have you. Matt, how about yourself?
Same Sunday Matt as always, but 25-year veteran armed forces, turned chef, turned health coach, turned whatever going on now. So, got to be here for the last one.
Bam. I like it. Tamara, how about yourself? We're gonna carry on, Tamara. I'll get to you in a second when your connection resets itself.
Not sure if you can hear me. I have a terrible connection, but
yeah, there we go.
If you can, Tamara from Sacramento.
Bam. I like it. The brevity is there. Let's get into it then. Goodwill. What is goodwill? Well, goodwill in a broader sense can refer to the positive and friendly feelings that exist between people or entities. It is a disposition of kindness and benevolence. For example, when someone acts with goodwill, they're acting with the intention of promoting positive interactions, understanding, and cooperation. And I think this is a great last subject to talk about on the last day this year. Let's go around the table. What are your first thoughts? Matt, what are you thinking?
I was kind of hoping you wouldn't pick me off the bat, but I think goodwill is kind of gets tied into with good intent. And I think that having your intent on a positive manner of things is what actually is better for the service of other people too as well. And I'm not talking like pump your gas kind of service. I'm talking just the betterment of humanity as a whole by doing the right things. Right?
I like it. Jim, what about yourself?
Yeah, I had a whole bunch of weird thoughts on this one, so I'll give you a bit of a roadmap of what I was thinking. But started off simple, went to a little more complex. But the simple thoughts were doing nice things, supporting the betterment of society, like Matt said, holding the door, helping with the groceries. When I thought about helping with the groceries, I said, hold on, what is goodwill actually, and does the location in which that takes place provide context? Like, in a small town, helping with groceries might be okay, but in the big city, that's why you steal my groceries, kind of thing. So what is goodwill? Where can we accept it? How has it changed over time? I guess my first thoughts are, I will assert generally, like, the true goodwill fosters peace. Goodwill to yourself, goodwill to your family, goodwill to your enemies, for lack of a better term. And doing something is probably better than saying something with respect to goodwill.
I like that. That's a good piece there. Tamara, what are your first thoughts on goodwill?
Sorry about that. I like goodwill when, especially if it's perceived well and not with skepticism, how it can be fairly contagious and sometimes lead to kind of a pay it forward effect. So when I think of goodwill, I think of that, of someone maybe getting something or doing something not as expected.
Dang. I think our connection's a little janky right now. We'll come back to you in a second, Tamara. Sean, first thoughts?
Yeah, I caught enough of Tamara's comment there and building off of what the fellas just said. And I hadn't given this much thought either. But I'm more leaning towards the idea of actions, not thoughts, deeds, not words, getting something done that is good for your fellow man rather than talking about how good you're going to be for your fellow man. I think it all, for me, mostly this entire year, generally speaking, has been about actions rather than talk. And so, goodwill, I do believe, in order for it to be, as Tamara said, to be contagious, for it to be paid forward, to help it build on itself, I think that it has to be more do and less talking about how much you've done.
Absolutely. Coming back to you, Matt. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree 100% that it's more of an action thing versus like a thought process, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, if you just like, oh, I have goodwill for you, I hope you have a good day. I mean, that's okay. But if you can do something to physically actually make it a good day for someone else, like the example of holding doors open or assisting somebody with a task that they're having difficulty with, right? I think that is more on the positive aspect of things versus just an intent or for verbiage thrown out there for the sake of it.
Yeah. Jim, any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's important to focus in on the offering of that goodwill, not necessarily to those who expect it, but to those who necessarily maybe don't know they need it or don't want it. In fact, so who are you offering it to? I think makes a big difference with respect to Tamara's comment about paying it forward.
Absolutely. Tamara, you got any other thoughts on this?
Because what the action can lead to is kind of an attitude change and a feeling change. And my kid beating on the door trying to get in here. Sorry. But yeah, it just action more than words. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I have a quick thought on this. The reason I picked this topic in general is goodwill is the fact that, there's that old saying, peace on earth and goodwill towards men, but the concept I never really understood. Like, it just seems like a platitude kind of deal, and I really like the fact that we're talking about actions here. And to Sean's point, the collective was started as such. So I want to get your guys' thoughts and opinions on, not just what can be done, but what do we do within ourselves to foster the attitude of goodwill, where we're willing to go out of our way to help those around us? Matt, come to you first. What do you think?
Well, straight off, it starts with being the example, right? I see it a lot when I'm working at school or working wherever I am. Is a lot of people don't do things for the sake of not doing it. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to get trapped into it. They don't want the negative response if someone doesn't appreciate what they're doing. And honestly, I'm at the point where I don't care if they appreciate it or not. In a negative aspect, if it's good, yeah, no, like we'll carry on. But if it's negative, it's like, hey, that's something you didn't want, and I am sorry. We can carry on. But it's being that example, going out and actually doing the simple things and showing people that you can assist, and like opening doors or helping somebody cross the road, like the old ladies have to cross the. I say old ladies, but old men and people who need assistance. Doing stuff like that, like little small things, right? And it's surprising how it becomes contagious too as well, where other people will start doing that because they see you doing it, and there's no harm, or negative feedback coming back from that they'll actually start doing it too as well.
Interesting. Jim, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I saw your text last night about the topic of goodwill, and I happened to be watching No Time to Die there, the James Bond movie. And right at the end, there was a quote by Jack London. The proper function of a man or person is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. I shall use my time. And I thought that was a pretty profound thing with respect to goodwill and peace, and thought it fit in nicely here. Is just your personal efforts and how you use your time and how you spend your time on the planet and how you interact with people is extremely important. I thought that was a good timing with respect to your topic and the movie I was watching.
Nice when things work out that way.
Yeah.
Tamara, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it comes from values and being taught, especially like when we use, always use the example of like opening a door or doing something, right? A lot of that is taught along the way and or inherent in someone. When I think about it, I think about my brother. My brother was a homeless addict for a long time before he passed away, and I remember he obviously wouldn't have a lot or anything, and I would give him all these things and try to help him out, and he would give a lot of things away. It just wasn't anything for him who had nothing to share with others and to give others constantly. And you would think like, hey, especially goodwill for some is like, hey, I need to be in this position myself to do better for you. And in some cases you should, but for him, it'd be like, hey, where are the shoes that I bought you? You know, it'd be maddening on my end, but he felt there was someone worse off, or he just knew, what he needed, and maybe shoes wasn't it that week. So like I said, it's usually taught and or inherent in some people.
I really like that, Sean. Thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's what Jim had said with I shall use my time. And I love that part in the movie. And there's actually a great montage clip out there where it's got several scenes from the movie where the central theme is I shall use my time. And I love that montage clip. It's, I don't know, maybe 3 minutes long. It's just got some great quotes in the montage. Maybe if I can remember later, I'll put it up on my Instagram account. But every time I watch it, and I've probably watched it 15, 20 times ever since the movie came out, that same montage, it always gets me fired up to remember, oh yeah, that's all we've got is time. I mean, goodwill to our fellow man doesn't mean money. And in Tamara's case, it didn't mean giving her brother some new shoes or giving him something. It meant her giving her time. She was spending time with whoever, anyone that was there in the immediate surroundings. And I feel that's the most valuable thing we can give anyone is our time. Use our time wisely to give our time to others so that we are creating more goodwill in the world. And again, I don't think it's about it's not about goods. It's not about cars. It's not about taking a set of keys and handing the brand new house keys that you just bought for your mom and dad and making it a big celebration moment. I don't think that's what life is about. I think life is about considering our time, our most precious commodity, how we use our time to help other people understand that we value their time.
Yeah, that is a very good point. And I just want to bring this up real quick. Winterstorm jumped in here, said, "Goodwill without action is just thoughts and prayers" on a social media post. And I think that is probably the most perfect line for this whole show in terms of that, in terms of what we're doing here. And you bring up a really good point, Sean, in terms of time. And I think we spend a lot of time doing stuff, but we don't invest a lot of time in those around us. And I'm wondering what your guys' thoughts are on, you know, how do we engage in that investment? How do we, it might sound self-serving, but how do we serve the collective so that the collective can serve us, kind of thing? So how do we create that positive cycle of goodwill, good action, of service begetting service? I'm going to come back. I'm going to start with Jim this time. What do you think?
Time is definitely the most important. Sean, some of the most important memories, I guess, where I was the receiver of goodwill, were just that. Somebody took the time to, 3.5 minutes was all it took. And, thank you for the acknowledgement. So those are, I agree with you on that point. The interesting comment there about thoughts and prayers, I've kind of struggled with this because it's a very different change in how we view goodwill, I think. So the way I think about it is it may be thoughts and prayers, but if before thoughts and prayers and before social media, 5 people were willing to do something, and now those thoughts and prayers generate, 20 or 30 people to do something, is that a benefit? Is it, it may not be as powerful, but it is something. It is some time. It is some effort to generate maybe perhaps different efforts that we didn't look at as simply the one person acting in one situation. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it's a new aspect of goodwill that I think we have to explore.
I'm tracking that. That's interesting. Tamara, thoughts on this?
I think Jim is right. Social media is a new aspect on it. We used to say in the fire service, and I'm sure it probably came from somewhere else, like do the right thing at the right time when no one is looking, right? So prior to social media, when people were in fact doing that, was that goodwill being paying for it and then motivating people to do others? Because now in social media, like it's nice. Now we get to see people doing those good thing for the right reason, even if it seems a little put on at times, but it does help reach a broader audience. Whereas, we were just kind of hoping through my own actions that someone would be affected by it or see it.
Absolutely. Matt, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, really. Because yes, you can go on social media or whatever, and you can see people doing good things, but if the person's intent is just to make a self-promotional deed for themselves, is that really goodwill? Is it goodwill out of the sake? Like, I understand exactly the concept of let's show what we're doing so that we can inspire others and grow that momentum of goodwill. However, if the core reason for doing that is self-gratification, that, oh, look what I did, give me 600 likes or whatever, and not, hey, take your own action, do your own thing and move forward. I think that's where it's kind of a tricky balance act. But yeah, I 100% think that people should be doing it more goodwill to others. I think that people should be showing it more as well as something that we can do, because we're kind of in a society where, my blinders are on and I don't see anything around it other than what I'm just focused on. I think opening up people's periphery on what's actually around you and what you can do to affect it is very, very valuable too as well. But doing it for the right cause, the right part of the heart, and not going down the dark side of things, I think is what we have to focus on.
Absolutely. Sean, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was giving it some thought this morning, not goodwill, because I rarely come into the podcast with more than 12 seconds of thought on what we're going to be talking about. And so, what I was thinking about this morning was not the phenomenon, the typical thing that happens at this time of year. It started about 12 and a half days ago, maybe 14 and a half days ago, maybe in October. But everyone's got their end of year reels going. Everyone's trying to get in front of everyone with their end of year reels and all of the magnificent things that they've accomplished this year. And as I watched a bunch of reels, and friends of mine, cool dudes, putting out reels that have, all cracking it all out of the park, all every month, every week, every day kind of thing. And as I was watching these, yet again, another year of them, I just thought, man, I'm not really into it. I'm not, maybe it's my imposter syndrome, as we were kind of laughing about before we went live today. But I don't know. I just don't feel the need to put out a bunch of things that I did or my family did or my friends did this year that I think are pretty rad. Yet at the same time, I'm trying to encourage everyone out there to just do a little better, to try a little bit more, to become more capable in their lives. And how do you do that without demonstrating that there's people out there that are doing it on the regular? And I'd like you to kind of pick up the pace and match the velocity of a boatload of people who are out there cracking it out of the park. And so if I'm going to use myself as a proxy, and if I put together a reel, I just can't stomach it, man. I just don't like flaring out like that. So I think that there's a place for people to put out the end of year reels and encourage others to, go to that country or go to that football game or work on your car or whatever the case is that brings you joy and gets you stoked and encourages other people to give something a try with a new hobby or a new trajectory. I think reels are great for that. It's just that it seems so self-congratulatory at the end of the year, where it's all compiled into one big blurry, bam, 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 bam. Every 3 seconds, you're seeing yet another photo of high fives. And I don't know, it just doesn't work for me, but it works for some people. And so then what works for me is like maybe not talking about it so much, about the things that I do or my friends do, and just like letting them do it, or me just doing it, and the outcome shows up over time. I don't know the right balance between what goodwill means today for me and how to improve it for others in the future versus what I've seen in the past. I just don't know the right balance for me. And by the way, I don't know the right balance for maybe society right now, because I don't think we have a good balance when it comes to goodwill for your fellow man currently.
Yeah, you bring up a great a great point in terms of where does the line between bragging versus inspiring others? Where is the, look how good I am at this, in order to get people to engage in it themselves, but at the same time, it can be viewed externally as bragging versus inspiring. Let's put it that way, because I don't think anything that you do, Sean, is bragging, but I think that it could be viewed from the outside as bragging based on the person interpreting it, if that makes any sense. So I'm wondering what your guys' thoughts are on floating that line, on finding that space, that little bit of liminal space in between the two of them, and figuring that out. Tamara, you got any thoughts on this?
Kind of similar to Sean, like it all comes back to social media. Maybe we all had some end of the year thing prior to that, but it's like it's always this. It just heightens everything, and it's out doing this, not doing this. I remember there was everything comes in phases, and then it just gets overused, overworked, and regurgitated, and you're sick of it. And I think of like when the quotes started coming out and reels with quotes, and me being super into them was like, oh man, that's good. It's kind of what I need to get going today, or like every so often it would tap onto something that got you going. And then now it's like, okay, it became played out. And now, even if you want to do it, you're like, shit, I'm on the played side of it. I should have caught it early. So this is new. I think it's new to all of us. You're either going to get in and be on the creative side of it and ride a good wave, or you're going to get in on the end of it and it's played out. And, do I look bad? Am I trying to make myself look good? If I'm trying to sell something, or I want people to follow me, or I want to teach people things, yeah, I have to do it. But I feel like we have to get more and more creative as to when we get in on some of that, especially as social media, because like we could be well intended, but now you're dealing with this element of timing. And then if your timing is off, you could really kind of throw people off, and that could hurt business or whatever you're trying to do.
Absolutely. We're going to watch the language though for the next little while. Jim, any thoughts on
Sorry.
this?
Yeah, I think you can do both, and like Sean said, I'm not 100% sure where that line is. It's a big weird Venn diagram that I think is constantly shifting. So personal gratification was mentioned. So if you're doing that, obviously it's not goodwill, but if it's personal gratification for others, could be goodwill. There could be, are you providing yourself some goodwill? You're helping yourself by helping others based on your post. That there's an aspect there. There's a weird balance, and I think the balance comes down to, are you developing clickbait on social media, or are you developing something that you truly think will either help yourself or help others by putting that out there? John, I know I've watched your biking videos, and I kind of got off the couch and said, man, time for a ride today, just because I saw you slow motion clip got in a corner, right? So I guess the intent, I think, probably behind it. If it's devious or nefarious in some way, then probably not goodwill. But
Absolutely. Matt, thoughts on this?
I think your actions should be shared by others in this regard, especially when it comes to goodwill. I think having other people observe you, what you're doing, and having them comment is very powerful to motivate others too as well, instead of just bragging. Long story short, I used to do these things called dignity bags, where I would hand them out to the homeless, right? It was nothing special: toothbrush, toothpaste, socks, dignity bags, right? But I never mentioned it to anybody. I just kind of like threw them in the back of the car. Whenever I seen someone, I would, hand them out as needed. But it was actually my then time girlfriend who actually started telling people about it. I was like, yeah, this is what Matt does. This is what Matt does. And then that actually started other people doing the same thing and passing it on. So, like, I honestly just keep it quiet. Like, there's a couple in the car and just behind the driver's seat, nobody matters, right? Or it doesn't matter that it's there, but it's other people seeing what you are doing. And then those people sharing that and getting those people, the people who are there sharing it to, get inspired by you to do the similar thing. And that starts that chain reaction where people are inspired by what you're doing and then going from there. I think the power of other people sharing is something that we're kind of losing right now. And that we're all focused on, this is what I did, look at me, this is what I did, versus someone saying, hey, did you know this guy does? And then it kind of goes spiraling down that train in that regards. That totally removes the whole self-centered aspect of the goodwill, right? It's someone else doing it for you by what your actions are speaking.
That's a good point. Sean, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. And I think that that's kind of what I try to do, but still not very well, or not as well as I would like to. I totally dig the idea of a dignity bag, Matt. And just by relaying that story, which I didn't know, and you've been on the podcast a fair amount of time. So this is new news to me. Like, it's really inspiring. I mean, not like super inspiring. I'm not like going to go out and do backflips on the front lawn, but it's inspiring, man.
Oh, come on. You could have gave me that one. I'm just
I'm too old for backflips. So I'm kind of inspired by that enough that I'm going to think about how I can do something a little bit more myself in 2024 in regards to that. And I hadn't had that thought up until just a couple of minutes ago. My thought for 2024 is this, and don't want anyone to get this twisted. I'm not a New Year's resolution guy. When it's at the end of the year, I don't spend the day thinking about how am I gonna turn it all around in 2024 within the next 12 hours. That's not how my brain works. I've been working on 2024 like 12 years ago or whatever. I'm just a guy who keeps on pushing forward, keeps pushing the pace, looking to do more every day. So 2024 is 2021 to me. But a loose goal that I've thrown out there, and I just chucked it out yesterday in a live chat, was I think 2024 is going to be the year of collabs for me. And I kind of laughed when I said collabs because collab wasn't even a word for me a couple of years ago. Didn't even know what it meant. But I think I'm going to try to collab more. And that makes me super uncomfortable because that's not why I got into this social media thing. But I do realize that that's what needs to be done. In order for me to spread more goodwill, I need to get involved with other people who are also spreading goodwill and maybe magnifying that effort through a more exponential basis. And I don't even know what that means right now. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know when or where or how or why, whatever. It's just a feeling that I've got in me that 2024, I got to start collabing more. And it doesn't mean that I've got to play nicely with everyone. That's not what I'm saying. I'm going to do me authentically, but with more people. And I'll figure that out in 2024. And I suppose the driving feeling that's inside of me for that is simply, I just want to spread more goodwill. I don't think of it as goodwill. I don't call it goodwill, but that's kind of what it is. Just kind of trying to spread the love, or insert the word that works best for your head. And that's really what 2023 has been from January 1st until today, 365 of these episodes of being like trying to pour ourselves into this thing called the collective that will make the world a little bit better for some people, not the whole planet, but for some, and some is enough for now. And so it's been a bit of a process to get to where we're at today. But as of, well, yesterday, I suppose, I started thinking, got to do it bigger, got to do more, got to pursue that excellence, got to build more goodwill. And so that's where 2024 is for me. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I don't know how we're going to do it yet, but 2024 is the year of the collab.
I really like that. I it I want to get the thoughts on this, because the collabs are one thing. But what happens when you have to start paying for stuff? Like, so far, we haven't really had to pay for anything other than, what's coming out of our pockets for all the stuff for the collective. But there's going to be a point where we have to, maybe hire a social media manager, or we're starting to have to, in order to benefit the collective, we're going to have to start paying for certain things to happen um, to get, all of this stuff sorted out behind the scenes, to make it bigger, better, faster, stronger, so we can reach more people, so we can collab with other groups, so we can engage with all these other things. And I want to get all your guys' thoughts on this, in that is there a point where it's the collab is maybe not as collaborative as it should be? You know what I mean? If one side becomes more indebted to another, if that makes any sense. So it becomes more one-sided giving than others, or perhaps one side has to pay for it, and then because it's being paid for, it's not really goodwill at that point, is it? You guys tracking what I'm saying here? You guys? Okay. So what do you guys let's start with Tamara this time. What are your thoughts on that?
It's funny that you talk about having to pay for things. So, kind of end of 2020 or mid 2020, a friend of mine had gotten me into trading with stocks, future trading, and we found a group that was giving the knowledge for free. They had become fairly successful, and they were like, "Hey, this is us giving back that pay it forward." From that, we kind of spun off and found these other groups, and again, they were free. They were like, we learned this information that we thought was very valuable to people that weren't getting it, and we'll give it for free. But at some point, this group had to start paying, and some people had problems with it, and they'll say like, well, if it's really goodwill, why are you charging? But what I understand is sometimes when you pay for something, it makes it better. It made the teachers better. It made the students more serious. And I think when you want to reach masses at some point, like, you have to be able to financially collect for that. And they deserve to be paid. And it wasn't anything astronomical that they were asking for. It was, I think, to kind of thin the herd to see who would actually just remain serious. Because my wife always jokes, when we put something out, whether it's nice for free, a lot of times we don't get any hits. You put that same thing out and you say like $5 or $20, and then people are in this bidding war for it. But same condition and everything else. So I think depending on what it is, having to pay could be a very good thing, and people deserve it.
Interesting. I like it. Jim, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think whatever you're going to do is going to have a ripple effect. That ripple is going to be big or it's going to be small. I think it's all about what can you do, or what are you trying to accomplish. Even is everybody's capable of generating different things. So somebody, for the greater good, somebody might have to give up something to help somebody else, and then you both benefit in the end. So I'm just thinking of a situation where, say Jocko decides to come on the collective and give you a hand, and then boost the collective's audience. That might be a loss for him, but a benefit to you, but it grows the greater community. So I guess without simplifying this too much, it probably comes down to a business decision of how big do you want your ripple to be, and how much are you willing to give. You guys have gave 365 days. That's a lot more than some people give. So your ripple has been bigger than 362 days, right? So
yeah, I like it. Matt, thoughts on this?
Well, if it's goodwill, it's not a give or take. It is just a give, right? If it's a relationship, then it is give and take, and there's balance, and there's checks, and in levels, and things going on. But if it's straight just goodwill, like I'm just giving things out, I'm giving a good out of my own will, right? Then there is no imbalance, because you are giving, and that is your balance, right? Now, to dial it in with where you're thinking about the collective and building stuff, you are giving it out for free. So that is the goodwill right there, right? If people wish to add into this project to make it bigger, that is goodwill for them to make it a better product for everyone else, right? So I don't think it is a check and balances. I think it is an internal check that this isn't the good that I'm willing to give out. And that's either you guys pushing it out or other people giving it to you to push out better goodwill.
Interesting. Sean, coming to you. What are you thinking?
Well, Jim had brought up the name of Jocko, and if Jocko came over to the collective, that would be super cool. And what I think Jocko would gain from that is probably not much financial gain because, again, the budget is zero. Though I'd give him a bag of coffee. I'd send him a bag of coffee for sure. But he wouldn't gain a lot in the sense of finances. But what he would gain is, yet again, as he pretty regularly does, he would be demonstrating how he runs his life, how he gives, how he's freaking an awesome dude. Now, he's got relationships that are full business, Jocko Fuel, Jocko, etc., all the Jocko stuff, where he's putting himself into it, but he's getting a lot back from it, maybe getting back more than he's putting in because he's made some successful business decisions. But in the matter of something like the collective or going on some tiny little podcast platform that is barely known, what's he getting out of that? Well, he gets into a conversation with people he's never talked to before, so he's gaining there. But again, what he's demonstrating is how he runs his life. It's not all business. It's not all big deals. It's being able to ebb and flow with the smallest of fish all the way through to the largest of sharks and demonstrate that he can interact with anyone at any level and still bring something to the table that is respectful or is appreciated or is wise. And so I think it's important for, we'll call them celebrities or large personalities out there. I think it's important that they demonstrate the biggest and the smallest of stages and how they can be the same person on either platform.
Authenticity. I like it. Winterstorm jumped in here with this comment. He says, when does the message override the methods it's delivered? Which is, I think, exactly what I was going for. Paying for reach, that kind of stuff. Another one, Lisa jumped on here. I'm on a break cycling. Just want to say hi, Happy New Year's. Thanks for what you're doing here, changing lives. Absolutely good to see you, Lisa. Now, this is more of a broader question, but the thing that keeps kind of clicking in the back of my head when it comes to goodwill is the fact that even goodwill, we had this conversation on altruism a little while ago, and we came up with the fact of like, is it really altruistic to do good things for other people because it makes you feel good, right? So you are technically doing something selfish by helping someone else because you feel good about helping someone else. And I wanted to touch on it in terms of goodwill because I feel it's the same thing in that there is a, to your point, Matt, you said, goodwill is just giving, but you get something out of it. You get a good feeling out of the fact that you help somebody, or you get a good feeling out of the fact that, you dropped off a bag and they're going to use it. Any of those things. So the real question is goodwill fully altruistic, or does it have a selfish side to it, if that makes sense? Jim, I'm going to start with you. What do you think?
It depends. Sorry, I know everybody hates that answer, but
I
guess
collective answer. I like
it. I mean, yes, it could be altruistic if you were being truly altruistic, and it may not be if you were getting something back. But I just think from just a human perspective, we probably want to feel good, and we're doing something because we want others to feel good, which in turn makes us feel good. So I don't think there's a clear line there, but I think the answer is yes. Either way, it works. If you're doing something good for somebody else, at least you're passing it on, maybe regardless of what you're expecting to get back. Both offer the same thing outward. One just returns it the other way.
Interesting. Matt, what are your thoughts on this one?
100%. Hopefully I feel good doing it, because if I feel good doing it, then that's going to motivate me to keep on doing it more. And if I have good feelings doing it and other people see me doing something and getting good feelings for it, that's going to be addictive to someone else too as well. Not addictive, contagious, I'll use. 100%. Like, yeah, I don't see a problem with you getting pleasure from giving goodwill. I don't see it. But if that's your sole motivation, is that dopamine hit of you actually doing something good, you may want to recheck your values. But I do not see a problem with having a good emotional return on actually providing for someone else, to giving goodwill to someone else. I think it's beneficial. I think it's something that, as Sean would say, puts it into a force multiplier. It actually adds on to itself and continues on.
I like it. Tamara, you got thoughts on this?
No, I agree. Same. I don't see any problem with it. I feel as when the intent is there and you want to give out good information and you enjoy it, and whether you get paid for it or not, I don't see any issue. It grows. Sometimes it gets stagnant. Sometimes you have to do things to build. But we all follow people for a reason. We all stay on social media for a reason because we're getting something out of it. And it's rare when we have quality people out there that I stop following, or they kind of run out of content, right? Depending on what you're putting out and why. And like Jocko, like he can go for forever, right? Helping corporate. We learn so much from the combat stories, or just from leadership. So I think the end of the road for any of that probably is far, as long as the content is good and the audience is there, and getting paid for it is great. Sometimes it's a little weird when like it's you're getting paid to sell something that that person doesn't use, but I like to see less of that. But for the most part, I have also brought products, whether it's supplements or something that I assume or trust that somebody uses, and it hasn't steered me wrong yet.
Interesting. I like that, Sean. Excuse me, Sean. Any thoughts on this?
Goodwill, I don't think it much matters whether you're doing it for nefarious reasons or for righteous reasons. Goodwill is goodwill. But it's where it becomes an observed pattern where someone's nefarious with their goodwill, whatever that means. If after week or month after month of me observing someone doing it totally wrong, well, it kind of spoils the party. It kind of spoils the goodwill. And now if I'm seeing that they're fake-eroniing it, they're doing it for all the wrong reasons to sell a hat, then it kind of spoils goodwill for me. And then I start labeling that person with a big, broad paintbrush that they're kind of fake. And so maybe a week later, they put out another scheme or another angle or another project of social media goodwillery. And maybe on that one, they do it better or they do it right, whatever that means in my head. Well, then I'll pay attention. But if I see pattern formed where it's time and time and time again, where it's nefarious activities labeled as goodwill, whatever that means, well, I'll start like shutting that grid down. I'll either bounce, like dump them as someone that I'm following, or I'll use them as a benchmark as to, man, I never want to become that pattern. I never want to be that thing. I don't want to run my life that way. And so I think that goodwill is good until there's that time where goodwill is being co-opted into a social media advertising scheme where it's just all about the wrong reasons. So I think that there is an extreme point where I draw the line and say, that ain't goodwill to me anymore, bro.
This and the reason I bring this up, and it seems like a simple answer, but I see things like, advertisements for certain organizations. I couldn't tell you which ones right now, but certain organizations will come out and be like, yeah, and we sell all this stuff and it's great, buy our things, and just so you know, we give 1% of our profits to a charity organization, veteran organization, this organization, save the planet, save the turtle, whatever, right? Like there's this little touch of altruism based into, I'm still selling stuff, right? And I want to get your guys' feelings on this, because it kind of irks me in terms of, there's almost like a line that you got to hit where, like 1%, like really, come on, man, like 1%, but 10%, okay, that seems more like you're giving, it's more of an altruistic motive, at least in my mind. But I don't know where that line is. I don't know where, like, is it 2? Is it 5? Is it 3? Like, who knows? So I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. Is there a line for you where that uh, maybe a financial line where that altruism becomes true altruism, where they're actually trying to help out the organization, or it's more of just a make you feel good about buying from us because we're technically helping kind of deal? Tamara, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think?
I feel the same way. I see a lot recently, and I feel like if someone's given 1%, they're not at all even mentioning that. It's those are the ones that are saying we give some proceeds to this organization, and there are some organizations that people say that they know is almost more clickbait, and so if they don't say a minimum of 10%, I don't take it seriously. And if they don't say it all, then I know that they're really just, and that's, they could just have their business and then donate how they please, right? But the fact that you're putting it on your product or in your advertising saying we donate some proceeds, but if you're not telling me what that is, and like you said, if you're not at least listing that and meeting an industry minimum, then it's a joke to me.
Interesting. Matt, what are your thoughts?
I really don't pay attention to those because it's kind of what Tamer was saying. Like it can be a joke, it can be a clickbait, it can be a selling strategy. If they are given 1, 10, 20%, whatever, I mean, good on them. That's 100%. But if I want a product and I'm going to get the product, that's it's not defiant on how goodwill or generous the company is with said product, right? But I'm also the kind of person that would give out $20 just for giggles because that's what the kind of person I am. I'd rather do that to like your Salvation Army or your Legion or whatever, right? I'll drop that and not even worry about the 1% discount given to sea turtles across, the Antarctica because I want to borrow soap or something. Like I really don't care, man. Like good on you for putting that out. It doesn't impact me in that way that you think you are.
Yeah, I like it. Jim, thoughts on this?
I'll try and keep it brief, but it irks me as well. The concept of corporate social responsibility has, I guess, just permeated everything. It's if you're giving 1% and it's for a tax write-off, and you're going to pretend it's not, then that's not altruistic. That's not goodwill. I guess are you a publicly traded entity? It makes a difference. Are you being corporately socially responsible because you need to generate profit for your shareholders, or are you a private entity where you're giving 17% and that's really all you can give? So that is goodwill in my opinion. But the 1% for a tax write-off, no, absolutely not. So I think it comes back to my previous comment there. What can you actually do, and what are you looking to do? And if it is in fact good, then it is goodwill.
I like it. Sean, thoughts?
What comes to mind is maybe a seal harvesting company where they go up north, they club seals over the head, baby seals, by the way, and then turn that into food. And so they're going to donate 1% of their profits to saving the oceans by removing plastic straws, replacing them with paper straws. And it's crazy. I mean, that happens in our world nowadays where it's almost a directional attempt to obfuscate what is happening. It's like that, hey, is that a bird over there? Right over there, look at the bird. It's got nothing to do with the bird. The 1% has got nothing to do with the story. You're clubbing baby seals over the head. And so you can take that extreme story and play it out throughout a lot of corporate non-responsibility. And it's just an effort to distract the masses as to we give back. Well, giving back, no matter, it could be $1 gajillion. And if it's dirty money, I'm not interested. And if it's for the wrong reasons, I'm not interested. If you're a good person or a good company, or again, you have goodwill, well, now I'm interested. And so I think for me, goodwill on any subject, or goodwill specific to Chance's question, It just has to be done right, for the right reasons, in the right way, at the right time, with the right people. And so goodwill, I do believe, has trajectory, has specificity, has a velocity that is not identical every single time you launch goodwill. You can't do an explosive breach through a door and throw goodwill into the door. You've got to know what you're entering into. You've got to like read the room before you kick the door down. Goodwill is not just something that you spray everywhere. I think there's a time and a place and a crowd, a vibe to do it right. And I feel that corporately or societally, it's not done well often enough.
Yeah, and I mean that's why I bring it up, is the fact that it's it's almost a joke now for certain organizations, as you said, Sean. And I guess my final real question about this, in terms of how to determine, is about how to determine that, is to how do we get the masses, how do we get other people, how do we get, because obviously corporations that set these limits, these 1% things, these obfuscation tactics, when they use them, they work on quite a number of people because they're still successful businesses. People are still buying their stuff. So how do we get, how do we show people, how do we teach people, how do we engage other people into viewing these with a bit more of a critical eye, with a bit more of a, is this really goodwill or is it not, without becoming so hard line tarnished to the point that you're looking at everything as being self-serving. Matt, coming to you first. What do you think?
That's a interesting one, because it all based on your personal values first, I would say, versus what the company values are, right? You would have to take a gut check too and say, hey, this is what I want to see happen, or this is what, the limit that I'm willing to go with this, and let that play out, versus challenging and being hard against someone else who does do the 1%. And kind of going back to like Sean's point too about the virtual signaling, Sean's and Jim's point about virtual signaling, that's rampant right now, and I think that is something to be aware of just as much too as well. I think that is, you can see it everywhere, from social media to politics to whatever. The virtual signaling of, oh, look at me, I'm doing good, or look, this is the good thing to do, but it's the background view of things that you have to be really aware of. Self-research, I think, is one of the biggest things you can do to prevent that, is actually look at behind the curtain, see what the wizard is actually doing, and then making your decision from that.
I like it. Tamara, what about yourself? What are you thinking?
I think like Matt, I think the wizard at some point just becomes so big, right? Like as we have this conversation, I in the back of my mind, I kind of playfully think like, well, what's my sellout number, right? Because I think about all these companies and these businesses that started small, and then you blew up. Maybe I sold it for 30 million, and maybe I wasn't a yacht guy, but I'm a yacht guy now, and then it's like, okay, do I can then say, yeah, maybe at some point in time, my small money becomes big money, becomes dirty money. And maybe all that I can do is take a little bit of that and just continue to give on whatever level. But you can look into these companies and do your reading and research all day, and you're going to find something you don't like. And it's hard. They just get so big, and something goes foul. So it's just going to be that daily fight within yourself. But man, maybe everyone's got like some FU amount out there,
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Jim, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I got to agree with Tamara. I'm not sure you can. It's a loaded question. It's you got to do the math, and the math on that's going to be crazy or very dependent on whatever you're looking at. So, I think you got to examine, what right back to the first part is what are the people, or what is the individual, what are the companies, whatever it is you're looking at, what are they doing? Not just saying, dig into the weeds and accept whatever your acceptable balance is to what defines goodwill versus what is corporate, and then make your own decision after you've done the math, but don't get taken in by the wizard, I guess. Just examine it for yourself.
I like it. Sean, thoughts on this?
Well, in a way, we're all our own little wizards. I mean, some of us are super small, probably maybe all of us on this panel right now, in context of something like a Jocko, or in context of something like I don't know, a Shell oil company or whatever. Any large corporate entity or any large character out there is probably bigger than the five of us combined. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how big or small you are, it's how you run your life, how you view how you run your life. And others will view your life as well, and they'll make their own determinations. But first things first, you've got to run a good program. You've got to be happy with who you are. You've got to be satisfied with what you put out. You've got to be critical of your own performance enough that you always want to do it better the next day. And so to me, that is goodwill, is just doing you as good as you can. And then the rest kind of unfolds in front of you, I do believe. And all of the, donate 1% or 7% or 24%, all of those numbers are inconsequential as long as your time is well spent, as long as you're demonstrating goodwill.
Yeah. I I really love this. This has been a fantastic conversation. So first off, thank you guys, Matt, Jim, Tamara, Sean. Awesome convo. I think this is a really thought provoking one in terms of, I think a lot of people are going to reassess where they sit in terms of goodwill based on today. So I really appreciate it. We're going to get some final thoughts here. I just have a couple comments I want to hit on, and then we'll do some final thoughts. Salty Jinx jumped in here and he said, sometimes giving is as much about the returns as what's being given. If the message is important enough, the means of delivery will be effective regardless of cost. And the highest payoff is the level of interaction and diversity that builds a better self, team, and group. And I think that sums it up quite nicely. Salty, well done on that one. Let's get some final thoughts overall and go from there. Matt, what are you thinking? Final thoughts?
I honestly think goodwill is just broken down to as actual word, right? Doing good and willing to do it. And I think it needs to be done more. I think the small steps versus the big, look at me, I'm a philanthropist kind of steps. I think the small individual ones will lead up to bigger results, right? A grain of sand is a grain of sand, but 10 billion of them is a beach. So go from there.
I like it. Jim, what are you thinking?
That's profound. I like it. I'm not going to top that, but I will say I just want to say Happy New Year's to everyone. I've learned a lot on the collective, and I think you guys need to add run a good program to your merch. And I also just want to say congratulations to Chance and Sean for grinding 365 days this year, and well done, because you've entertained and helped me, and you've entertained and helped a lot of people. So well done. We're picking up what you're throwing down.
I appreciate it, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to put it on merch. Don't you worry. Tamara, how about yourself? What are you thinking?
Sam, I just want to thank you guys. It's been a pleasure to be part of the 365. It was a great conversation today, and I think I'll go into 2024 posting more about what I'm doing and trying to include people in that. I'm kind of a lazy poster, so most of what you get is what I did. But if we can help more by sharing what we're doing in real time and getting people to engage in that, that would be great, because kind of like Matt, I'm just a random giver anyway, and I just do it because it's fun, and I feel like I have a very blessed life and can share with others. But if I ever need to reach an audience, I know the best way to do that is to do it, post it before I do it. So thank you.
I like it. Absolutely. Sean, thoughts on this? Final thoughts?
Yeah, as Tamara was saying that, I was thinking about her most recent post that she just put up, and that is in respect to the full year of school and attending classes on the daily, and watching the evolution of that little man, and seeing how it all plays out. And you know what? I don't know Tamara that well, other than here on the podcast, but I do track her on social media. And yeah, you're right. You don't post frequently enough, because when your posts come out, I enjoy reading them. I enjoy somehow feeling like that maybe that I'm not connected to your family life, but I understand it a bit better, and somehow that pleases me. Somehow that makes me feel like my life is just a little bit richer for tracking what you're putting down. And again, if you did it a little more frequently, I'd have a little bit more joy in my life, perhaps. And so I think that is what goodwill is about, is looking for people who are cool and enjoying the fact that they're running a cool life, and contextualizing how to do things better. Um, seeing good people do good things makes me want to be gooder. And I think that's where I'll leave the message off at the end of this year, after daily podcasts of moving towards this final moment this year. It's been a heck of a ride, and I've learned a ton. And the reason that I've stayed engaged in the process has been rarely about me, and being more about the team that has showed up every day, either as guests or as viewers or as commenters or as follow-on DMs day after day after these podcasts. So it's been a really positive year for myself and a lot of people, I think. And I just want to, I guess, thank everyone for being part of it.
Yeah, I want to say something very similar to that. I don't have a ton to add into this. I think the whole concept of the collective was started in goodwill. I think we wanted to help, and we needed to figure out how, and we just started working. That is the key. I love the point that you said there, Matt, a second ago, was the fact that it's good and we're willing to do it, and we're here. This is where we're at. So I think that's fantastic. So 365 days of these. I think I'm actually 363. I think I missed 2 shows at the beginning of the year. So I just want to make that sure that everybody understands.
I win.
Yeah, exactly. Sean wins. He had 365. I got 363. There won't be a collective show tomorrow. We're going to be recording it. It's going to be released on the Friday. But I just wanted to say, for 363 days, I have learned every day. I have built upon what I've learned every day, and I have grown every single day with the collective. So we won't see you tomorrow, but we will see you soon. Chimo.
Chimo.